Do you think that eating plant-based food is complicated? That there are too many weird ingredients? Today, we're going to bust this perception by helping you fit out your plant-based pantry with all the essentials. Welcome to the Fabulous Health Show. I'm your host, Terry Chrisman. I'm a whole food, plant-based nutritionist, and this show gives you the tools to help you obtain optimal health so that you can live a long, happy life and age with grace and vitality. Woohoo! It's episode 70, and today I'm going to be joined by the gorgeous Claire Williams. Claire is the brains behind the plant-based recipe blog Planet Plantastic. Claire teaches you how to make simple, delicious and nutritious plant-based meals, and you can find them at planetplantastic.com. She knows her way around a kitchen, and she's going to help us build a pantry full of plant-based food items so that we can whip up plant-based meals quickly and easily. And welcome, Claire, to the show.
Hi, Terry. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's so good to have you here today. So we're going to be talking about how to build a plant-based pantry. Some people may think that plant-based cooking is difficult and it requires tons of weird ingredients, but you are going to squash that myth completely today. So talk to me about what you think the most important things about a plant-based pantry are, and we're going to discuss certain things that you think we should put into that plant-based pantry.
There are so many different foods that you may already have in your kitchen, even if you don't think it's a plant-based kitchen. So you might have some spices at the back of your cupboard, maybe that you haven't used for a while. And you might have some cans of things lurking around as well. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of debunk the myths that it's really hard to kind of transition to plant-based, because you can start with just a few very simple ingredients. So yeah, it's tofu. Tofu is one of them. It's such a versatile food. Tofu comes in all shapes and sizes. You can use it in different recipes. You can grate it. You can fry it, you can bake it, you can eat it just as it is, you can stick it in salads. The list is really endless. And it's a great protein source, right? So if you're worried about protein, just add tofu to your diet and you'll be fine.
And tofu has got a very neutral flavor, hasn't it? So it takes the flavor of the spices and things that you put on it. And we will talk about spices a little bit later in the show. But if you buy a block of tofu and you open it up and you take a taste of it, you're going to say, this is hideous. Why am I going to eat this? So
yeah,
unless you like really bland things, right? But you could say the same about bread. Bread's pretty boring. And you add the sandwich fillings on it to make a nice sandwich, and it acts as a kind of vehicle for the food. Tofu's pretty similar like that too, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's one of the beautiful things about it. I mean, you can put it in all kind of different types of cuisine. So, Mexican, British, cottage pie, for example. You can make, instead of meat, the ground meat, you just kind of grate up tofu, and this is good to go. You just cook it as you would do animal-based products. You can put it in so many different things. I use it in curries. You can use it in Asian food. You can actually buy it also with herbs and spices in it. So you can buy it kind of marinated. So that's also good if you want to just have a salad and you chop up some tofu. I love basil tofu. You can get that here in Germany. Just chop it up, stick it in your salad, and you're good to go. And another really amazing thing about it, silken tofu. If you've never tried silken tofu, this is kind of more creamy. It's also got a very neutral flavor. But silken tofu, you can make the most delicious dessert, which is so simple. Silken tofu with some melted chocolate or cocoa powder and maybe a little bit of date syrup, and then you've got a chocolate mousse, and it's delicious and super healthy.
Yummy. And if you live in the States, talking about the pre-seasons tofu, Trader Joe's has an awesome teriyaki tofu. Yeah, it's got a little bit more fat in it and a little bit more salt than plain old tofu, but it saves you marinating it. You can just chop it up, chuck it on your salad, and you are good to go. Okay, number 2 on Claire's list is dates.
Oof, we could do a whole podcast just on dates, Terry. So again, if you're following a whole food plant-based diet, you want to be cutting down on refined sugar. You want to be careful about how many processed things you're eating. And there's a lot of hidden sugar in many products that you can buy in the supermarket. So dates are a great way to add lots of sweetness to your dishes without worrying about the added sugar, because it's natural sugar. And medjool dates, this is one type of date. They're quite big, chunky dates. I put those in my smoothies every morning, and it's great because you only need one. I make a smoothie for 2 people. I put one medjool date in, and I don't need any other sweetness. I'm adding fruit, and I'm adding spinach or greens as well. But that date just really sets it off. And another
I want
thing
one now.
Yeah, no, my stomach might start rumbling during this
Yeah,
recording.
that's true. When you start talking about food, you want to eat it all.
Yeah.
You can also use date powder in replacement of sugar in recipes as well. Well, Your World in America makes an awesome date powder, and it's just the dates being dehydrated and then blended up. So you're getting all that fiber, all those phytonutrients, all that sweetness, and it's not refined like sugar. Dates are a good one. They're really good for kids too. So if you've got kids and they want lollies or candy or something, and you can placate the little monsters with a date, and that's good for them, and they think that it's candy.
So this is a great thing to give, especially if people have a craving for sugar, because a lot of the time, you if you're used to eating all the processed stuff, you're addicted to the sugar. So it's a great way to kind of transition from all that refined sugar, and just one tiny little bite, and it'll keep you'll be good with that. So.
Yeah, they're very satisfying, aren't they? And I think that's because they do have all those added nutrients as well. Okay, number 3 on Claire's list, seeds.
Yeah, another really great one. So the 4 seeds that I always have in my pantry: chia seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds. And with those 4, I know I'm getting lots of omegas, so omega-3s and omega-6. You can tell people more about the balance, how you're supposed to have a good balance of these in your diet. But yeah, chia seeds are especially high in omega. They're really high in fiber. They're like tiny, tiny little black seeds, but they're absolutely packed full of nutrients and all the good stuff. So yeah, chia seeds also, they go kind of gloopy when you add them into liquid. So some people don't like the taste. I know that, Terry, you're not a big fan of the chia gloopiness.
No, I'm not a big fan of chia seeds.
And you told me a trick, and I'm going to hand over to you though, because I think it's a really good trick.
Well, the trick is they are good for you. So you blend them and turn them into a powder, and then you can add them to all the stuff that you want to add them to, like your smoothies, as you said before. But you might see on the internet people posting chia seed puddings, and that's just your chia seeds, your plant milk, and maybe some mashed bananas or some mashed mangoes or whatever fruit you feel like. You put it in the fridge overnight, and it makes kind of like this glutinous, for want of a better word, sounds so appetizing, pudding. And if you like puddings, that's awesome, full of nutrition. Flax seeds, same thing, isn't it? They have awesome omega-3s. And if you're like me and you don't really like taking omega-3 capsules, they give me a tummy ache. I go for the whole food omega-3s all the time. So seeds are great, and they're crunchy too. Add them on your salad, not maybe chia or flax, but maybe your pumpkin seeds. Fantastic on salads, aren't they?
Yeah. So back to chia and flax seeds. These are really good for baking as well, especially when you're not baking with egg, because when you make a banana bread or something, you want to have something, the egg would usually hold everything together. It's the binding ingredient. So chia or flax egg, they're called a chia egg or a flax egg. They do the same thing, and you just put them in water. You leave them a tablespoon of chia or flax, leave them in water for 10-15 minutes. They go all gloopy. You stick them in as your egg replacement, and then you've got a nice cake or bread.
And it's funny because they have the same viscosity as an egg in a cake, and that brings binds it all together, and it's awesome. So seeds are fantastic things. They're very, very high in protein and also in fat. So if you're looking for healthy fats, they're the go. So you also mentioned sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. Why do you love those?
Again, not just for the nutritional qualities, but also because they add some crunch and some texture to your meals. So what I like to do if I'm making a really nice kind of autumn cozy soup, maybe out of pumpkin, for example, I'll just roast some seeds in a dry pan and then add those on top, and it just gives a really nice additional crunch. You can put them in salads as well, for example, and also eat them as snacks. You can have your date and then some pumpkin seeds, and you're good to go.
Absolutely delicious. I'm starving to death now talking about this. I could have eaten before we did this recording. Okay, the next one on your list. Beans.
Yeah, so not just about baked beans, good old baked beans that I grew up with. These were pretty much the only beans I ever ate when I was a kid. You have to be careful with baked beans because sometimes they have a lot of sugar and salt added. So I would always recommend in your pantry having some dried beans and some canned beans. Canned beans, try and get them with the least amount of added sodium and other stuff inside them. And dried beans are just great because they last forever. Well, not forever, but they last a long time. And you can keep them in kind of sealed containers just to keep them longer. And you can just add them to so many different things. Again, it's a really good protein source. You can make black bean burgers, for example, a really healthy alternative to normal burgers. You can add them to curries. You can add them to stews. You can really make so many different things with beans and have so many different varieties. So, and if you have the canned versions, if you can't be bothered to do all the soaking and waiting for ages, then you just open a can, stick it into whatever you're cooking, and it's ready within minutes.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, actually. I mean, the dried beans are a lot less expensive. So if budget is an issue, then you can buy, say, a half a kilo or a pound of dried beans, and that's the equivalent of 4 cans of canned beans once they're cooked. And it's for the same price as 1 can of canned beans. So they're about a lot less expensive. You can also use beans in desserts as well. I follow a girl on Instagram, Broccoli Mum, Amy James, and she is awesome. And she puts chickpeas in everything, her chocolate mousse, her banana bread, everything that she does, she puts the beans in just for added nutrition. So this sounds a little bit scary to you. If you're new, don't start right there. Start with just adding beans to your dinner, and you can progress onto using them for your desserts.
Yeah, talking about desserts, I've made a almond bean blondies before. So it's just white cannelloni beans. Is that how you pronounce it?
Cannelli, I think.
Cannelli beans.
Yeah. Cannelloni. I want some cannelloni.
The white ones. Cannelloni, whatever. They're in a can, so that's why I get confused.
They're white.
So the white beans, any kind of white beans, with some almond butter, and then you want to add some date syrup or date powder. And I think there's a couple of ingredients, but you can just make it, blondies out of beans. So yeah, beans and desserts. It's a great way to get some more protein.
Is that recipe? Hang on, where am I? Is that recipe on your blog, Plantastic, or not yet?
So it was one of the first videos I filmed, and this was me back in the day trying to discover how to film the best videos for TikTok and Instagram. So I actually filmed it, but I never published it because all the lighting was bad. So I do have the recipe. I want to refilm it again. So check it out before the end of 2024. I'm sure I'll have a bean dessert recipe up on my website for sure.
Awesome. So if you're watching this in 2025, head over to Planet Plantastic and check out that blondie recipe. And you should head over there anyway, because Claire has lots of awesome recipes, plant-based recipes, easy, delicious, simple. Her videos are fantastic. So head over there and check them out as soon as you can. All right, what's next on our list? Now, this says flour, but it's meant to represent whole grains.
Whole grains, yes.
Yes.
You can make flour out of whole grains, of course, but yeah,
right.
we're not talking about refined white flour. We're talking about whole wheat, whole grain ingredients. So this is another one favorite in my pantry. It's kind of similar to the bean thing, because they're really cheap to buy. You can have so many different types of them. We're not just talking about rice here. We're talking about barley, about millet, about buckwheat, lots of grains that maybe you're not familiar with in your everyday cooking already. But yeah, these are really good on many levels. One, because each different one has a different nutrient profile, so it'll give you variety is key, I think, in general, right? So each grain will give you a variety of nutrients that your body needs. Also, it's a slightly different texture, slightly different taste, but they can all be subbed. If you're used to having white rice with all of your meals, like if you really like curries, or if you really like, having stir fries or whatever, just try subbing it for a different grain, and you can be surprised at how versatile they are, and you can just keep it interesting. Again, some of them are a lot cheaper. Whole grain rice tends to be a bit more expensive than white rice, but millet, for example, is really, really cheap in most places.
Yeah. And then some people may be gluten sensitive, and not all grains have gluten. A lot of grains are gluten free. So, well, rice being one of them. You can
Buckwheat,
try different grains and get the gluten-free ones so that you can still have all that nutrition and not miss out on stuff. Okay, next. This is a picture of apple cider vinegar.
Yay!
So why do we want apple cider vinegar and not just regular old white vinegar?
Because this has so many more properties. It's really good for digestion. It's really good for your gut health. I usually have a little glass of apple cider vinegar in the morning, especially when I have a kind of bad tummy. This will just really help to smooth it out. So yeah, really good for the stomach, really good for digestion, for your gut health, for your microbiome. It's important to have you want it with the mother in it. I think that's how you say it, the active part of it, right? And yeah, some ways you can use it as well. You can kind of add a dash. So from the taste side of things, it can really kind of bring out flavors as well. So for example, if you have a soup, just add a bit of apple cider vinegar on when you serve it, and it really can. It's like lemon juice or lime juice. It brings out the flavors as well.
Brightens everything up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So let's talk about this mother thing. The mother is the cloudiness inside the apple cider vinegar bottle. So if you go to the supermarket and there's two different apple cider vinegars on the shelf, and one is really clear and kind of orangey color, but really see-through, that one doesn't have the mother. And the mother are the probiotics and all the good beneficial bacteria that you actually want. So look for the apple cider vinegar that has sediment on the bottom of the bottle. Always buy it in glass. And if you shake it, it should cloudy up. That's the one you want.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got it in your pantry for a while, you might kind of look at it and go, ooh, what's that in the bottom? But that's totally normal for apple cider vinegar. Like you say, just shake it up and you're good to go.
That's what you want. Yeah, exactly. The nasty stuff. Excellent. All right. So those are some really, really kind of staple things that most people would probably have in their pantry. Most people would buy beans and grains and things like that. Let's talk about a weird thing. Well, not weird to me, not weird to you, maybe weird to other people, that you find on some plant-based recipes. And if you're a newbie, you might go, what is that? And I'm talking about nutritional yeast. This is a weird kind of flaky yellow stuff. What is it? Why do we need it? And why is it great in a plant-based pantry?
So it's also called nooch in the UK, at least. I haven't lived in the UK for a long time, but when I look at the recipes there, I hear the word nooch. So if you come in from that part of the world, you might have heard it called nooch. So it's an inactive yeast. It's not an active yeast. You can't make bread, or it doesn't rise, products. So it's an inactive yeast, and it's full of B vitamins. You can also get a nutritional yeast that's what's the word? Fortified. Yeah, fortified with B12 as well, which is something that on a plant-based diet you want to make sure that you're getting B12. So I usually buy the fortified version. You can also get it just without the fortification, and it still has lots and lots of good stuff in it. And this is good. It gives a cheesy and a nutty flavor. So you can use it. It's kind of like tofu. You can use it in so many different ways. I like to use it with cashews, so I make a cashew cream cheese, and this just brings out the cheesiness. It gives an additional cheesy layer. You can also use it in the scrambled tofu. So going back to my favorite, my first pantry item, mix tofu with some nutritional yeast and some turmeric and some other things, and you've got a scrambled tofu, and again, it brings out the flavor.
Awesome. I have the awesomest scrambled tofu recipe on my blog too, fabuloushealth.net. So if you're interested in finding out a recipe using nutritional yeast, you can head over there as well. Do you have anything on your blog at the moment with nutritional yeast in it, Claire? What do you got?
Yeah, I've got a Mexican style scramble. So it has nutritional yeast in it and a few other kind of Mexican style ingredients. So
yummy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I've got my really simple cream cheese, cashew cream cheese recipe as well. So you can check both of those out.
Yummy. I'm actually making, if I can just change the subject a bit, I'm making cream cheese at the moment just by making yogurt out of soy milk and then putting it through a strainer for a couple of days, taking all the water out, and it turns into cream cheese with no additives, no oils, no anything, and it's delish. So you can check that out on my YouTube.
Okay, now I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, I know, that's right. We all want a bagel with cream cheese. Okay, next on the list, nut butters. If you're allergic to nut butters, you can use seed butters too, but nut butters are very versatile. Talk to us, Claire, about those.
Yep. So nut butters are the healthy fats. Again, if you're watching your weight, or if you need to lose weight, then you might want to kind of do this in moderation. But yeah, nut butters are great. I wouldn't buy them. So the standard peanut butter that you get in the supermarket, you don't want to be eating that because it's got loads and loads of other stuff. It's got palm oil, it's got salt and sugar and lots of ingredients that you don't recognize. That's always a no-no in my book. So these days it's quite easy in the UK and in Germany at least to find 100% nut butter. Maybe some of them have just a tiny bit of salt, but you want to get 100% nut butters, however you can find them. And these, again, you can use them as you would usually eat peanut butter. So you can have this as a sweet snack. You can make cakes, and you can use it in baking as well. And what was the other thing that I usually make nut butters with? Terry, maybe you've got some ideas. I've gone blank on what I can do.
You can use it as a fat sauce because they're very, very high in fat. So as Claire said, you don't want to be like eating it by the spoonful out of the jar. They're really good fat.
Even though that would be very good. That would taste very nice, but yeah, you have to limit yourself a little bit.
So I have a fantastic granola that I use from Dr. Joel Furman called the Nutrarian granola. It's not my recipe, but I make it all the time. And I make a jar of granola this big, like enormous, and I use a half a cup of nut butter in it. And that gives a beautiful nutty flavor and holds the granola together and acts as a fat source for the granola. And then I dehydrate it in the Breville, and it's absolutely delish. And you were mentioning that you want to look for nut butters that don't have all the additives. If you live in the US and you go to a health food store or to Whole Foods, a lot of the time, and even Sprouts, I think, they have a big container of nuts and a machine that just grinds them, and you stick your jar under the machine and you press the button and the nuts go through, get turned into nut butter, and then you go and buy that jar of nut butter. So you can't get any more whole food than that.
I wish we had something like this.
Yourself.
I wish we had something like this. I wish we had something like this here in Germany. That sounds amazing.
You can do it with a high-speed blender as well. If you have a high-speed blender like a Vitamix or a Blendtec or something like that, you can throw your nuts in there and blend them up into nut butter. But you really want to be careful that you do have a high-speed blender, because if you don't, you could end up buying yourself a new blender.
Yeah, I think I managed to do that a while. I managed to destroy my blender a while back. Yeah, doing something similar.
Trying to make nut butter. Okay, be careful with that. Now, we're going to move on to what I believe is the most important part of a plant-based pantry, and that is herbs and spices.
Again, another topic for a whole podcast or two here. So I've always used herbs and spices. Most people have some standard ones in their kitchen, no doubt. Even if you don't cook very often, you have, pepper, for example. Most people are going to have some pepper. But yeah, since I have had my plant-based kitchen, this has tripled or maybe quadrupled. It's one of the biggest cupboards in my kitchen, actually. So yeah, some of my favorites. I have, maybe I mentioned 3. Cinnamon is absolutely fantastic. I've been, who doesn't like cinnamon? Maybe some people are allergic, I don't know, but cinnamon is, again, very versatile. You can use this. You can even use this in savory dishes, for example. At the time of recording, we're in autumn, so the pumpkin season is starting. If you want to have a nice kind of warm autumn flavor, you just add cinnamon to your pumpkin and then roast it in the oven, and it tastes delicious. So cinnamon is a big one.
Yeah, awesome. Cinnamon is fantastic. Also good for your blood as well. Yep. So what's your other go-to spices?
Another one which I cook with basically all the time when I'm making savory things is smoked paprika. This is just fantastic. It gives obviously a nice smoky flavor. I put it in pasta. I put it in all kinds of dishes. Whenever I'm sauteing vegetables, that's like the first thing that I chuck in there. So yeah, you can make a nice chili as well with a kind of bean chili. If you put smoked paprika in there, it's really awesome. Another one that I always have in my kitchen that's really, really versatile as well is turmeric. So this is that nice yellow color. When I was a kid, we used to have this in rice, right? So you'd cook your rice and you put some turmeric powder in there, and it gives a nice color to your dish. So it's not just about the look, it's also about the nutrition value. So turmeric is really good for you as well. It's got antimicrobial properties, I believe. It's really good for your gut as well. Anti-inflammatory. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the important thing is you need to combine it with black pepper. Or cayenne pepper, I think, also works.
Black pepper's good. Yep.
Black pepper works. So this increases the absorption of the good stuff from turmeric in your body. So you always want to add black pepper with turmeric. And what's really good about this as well, so I put it in many dishes, many savory dishes, but you can also have it as it's called golden milk, and it's turmeric powder, cinnamon, ginger, bit of black pepper, and you can also add cayenne pepper in there if you want a little bit spicy, and you just make this mix. Yeah, and a little bit of fat.
Yeah, so if you're using soy milk, that's good. It's got the fat in it already.
Yeah, and that's all you do. You can make that in batches. So I have a big jar of this that I just kind of buy all my spices and mix them all together. You don't need any special equipment for it at all. And then what you do is you just heat up your soy milk or your oat milk or whichever milk you're using. And you heat that up as you would do like a hot cocoa. And I have this in the nighttime. It helps me sleep really well. And you just pour it in, and then it's delicious.
If you suffer from arthritis when it gets cold and your joints hurt, golden milk is just awesome and highly, highly recommend it. So tell me something about this weird salt that people put on things to make it kind of taste eggy. What's that?
Yeah, this is the mystery eggy salt. It's called Kala Namak. And it's also, you hear it called black salt if you're not sure about Kala Namak. It's quite a weird name if you're not used to it. And this is, it does what it says on the tin. So it's a salt that tastes, kind of sulfurous, so it's got that eggy flavor. So if you're really missing eggs and you want to eat a tofu scramble, for example, you stick in some kala namak, and that will really bring out that eggy flavor. And it's really potent. You can, when you open it and smell the jar, you're kind of like, whoa, okay. But don't be afraid. You only need a little bit of it to get that eggy flavor. Another one I make is a cold egg-free salad. I make that from chickpeas and pasta, whole wheat pasta, and I really overcook the pasta. You need it kind of really soggy, and then you whiz it up in a food processor, add in some herbs and some kala namak salt and a bit of nutritional yeast, and you've got yourself an egg salad. You can even stick fresh chives in there as well.
Oh, yum. And you can also make, if you like omelets and you want to stop eating eggs, you can make an omelet batter with chickpea flour and some plant milk or some water. And then you can put this kala namak in that as well. And it gives that pancakey, omelette-y thing a much more eggy flavor. When we were off air, we talked about a Middle Eastern spice that I love, you love, and people might think, oh, I've never heard of this before. What is it, and why do we want to use it?
So what we're talking about is the wonderful spice za'atar. I believe that might be the right pronunciation, but don't hold me to that. So za'atar, it's got an apostrophe in the middle. And this is a mix of sesame seeds with some other spices. And it's really, really tasty. It adds lots and lots of flavor. The most common way to enjoy it is to put it on your hummus, for example. So you make your hummus as you would usually make a basic hummus, and you just sprinkle some of this on top, and it adds all that little special detail. And also you can stick it on toast, so you can put it on avocado. I really like putting it on like a mashed avocado, and I put this on top, and it's really versatile, and it adds, if you want that kind of Middle Eastern flavor, mix it in with some fresh lemon juice as well. And yeah.
Oh, it's awesome.
Great.
If you're in America and you've heard of everything bagel seasoning, it's like that, but on steroids. It's like 10 times better than everything bagel seasoning, and it doesn't have the salt in it. So I highly recommend za'atar. It's awesome. Well, Claire, thank you so much for joining us today. It sounds like there's a lot, but if you go through this video and just look at things one thing at a time, it's not that difficult. And once you have these things in your pantry, then you'll be able to whip up whole tons and tons of awesome recipes. Now, there is one thing that just popped into my mind that I always have in my pantry that we did not talk about, and that is tinned or glass jars of tomatoes.
Oh, yeah.
How did we forget that?
I mean, that's so important. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to cook? Oh, thank God I've got tomatoes. I'm going to make this or this or this, right? So yeah, tomatoes are really, really useful. If you combine all of the ingredients we talked about, you can make some amazing dishes. And just like going through like beans, some tofu, some canned tomatoes, some of the herbs and spices, stick them all together, and you've got a delicious casserole, for example, or a curry, or a chili. So yeah, tinned tomatoes, essential, absolutely essential.
Yeah, and passata. In America, they call it tomato sauce, which is weird, but passata, which is basically just tomatoes blended. If you can't buy passata, but you can buy canned tomatoes, then just put them in a blender and you've made passata with no additives. And Claire's absolutely right. Plant-based cooking doesn't have to be difficult. If you can think about just getting a bowl or a pan and adding, some ingredients into it, some tomatoes, some beans, some veggies, some grains, some spices, in any combination, you've basically made yourself dinner, and you've made yourself a really nutritionally balanced dinner. So not only is it going to be delicious, it's going to have all the vitamins and minerals and all the, carbohydrates and proteins and fats and all the things that you need just by throwing these ingredients into a bowl or into a pan and cooking them. So
the beauty of the herbs and spices is that You just need to learn a couple of combinations that work really well, like an Italian blend or a Mexican blend or whatever cuisine, and you can just mix and match. You put the same things in the same bowl and you mix and match. You choose a different spice and you've got like 10 different varieties of cuisine that will keep it interesting and flavorful.
And that's a really good tip, because if you think, oh, how do I make an Italian sauce? Oh, I need oregano and I need marjoram and I need basil and I need rosemary and I need thyme, and you don't want to buy 17 different spices, go to the supermarket and buy an Italian blend pre-made. You can buy an Italian blend pre-made. You can buy a Mexican blend pre-made. You can buy a Mediterranean blend pre-made. And as we mentioned before, za'atar is already a blend. And then all you need to do is have like five or six different spices in your cabinet instead of 50, which, you know, Claire and I have.
I need an extension on my apartment. Yep.
Just for all the spices. If you're wondering about where to get these spices, obviously your supermarket's awesome. I really love the Well Your World spices if you live in America, and they make all the blends for you, so you don't have to worry about that as well. So Claire, thank you so much for joining us today. Please go and visit Claire at her recipe blog. It's planetplantastic.com. Claire, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Terry.
So thank you so much for watching and listening to the Fabulous Health Show. You can catch all the past video episodes on YouTube. And if you like them, please hit that subscribe button. If you prefer to listen, head over to fabuloushealth.net to subscribe to the Fabulous Health Show on your favorite podcast platform, or just ask Alexa to play the Fabulous Health Show. If you want to take your health to the next level, check out my website, fabuloushealth.net, for lots of free resources, including my optimal guide to health with a whole food, plant-based lifestyle magazine. Thanks for watching and listening, and have a fabulous day.